The Torah portion for this week is called Vayayshev, and we find resonance with that all the way back in the parsha known as Toldot. But I get ahead of myself. Let's start right where we are right now. Vayayshev means, and he dwelt. And who dwelt? It was Jacob. Father Jacob finally put down roots after all of his years of wandering, running, being pursued and hounded by so many different forces in his life. He's finally, for the first time since he was a little boy, able to put down his feet on the ground without fear that he would need to pull up his tent pegs quickly and start running for his life. We find that at the very beginning of his life that he was almost destined for this. Esau, you remember, his twin, was the hunter. He was the man that was always on the move. However, Jacob, as called by Parshat Toledot, was Ish Tam, was a very perfect, almost complacent man. He was so content with his life. Yoshev Ohalim, who dwelt in tents and studied according to the tradition. But the key words are Yoshev Ohalim, that he dwelt contentedly. What does Yoshev Ohalim have to do with this Torah portion? Because now he's finally able to do that which he was destined to do all of his life. Simply sit down and finally be at peace. And as we approach the latter part of the book of Genesis, we realize it is not so. Maybe not destined to be so. He's not going to have peace, or at least not the contentedness that he's been searching for all of his life. It's pointed out by many of the great sages and masters throughout the course of time that there is a difference between shalom and shalva. Shalom, we know, is peace. Shalom can be peace of virtually anything. It can be peace in terms of having enough money. It can be peace in terms of not having to want to try to find things that we look for in our youth. Peace can mean lots of different things, but separate it is from shalva, from contentedness. Jacob had the former, but not the latter. He had peace. He was able to finally live in his land, enjoy the fruits of his hands and his labors, and not have to worry about where his bread was coming from tomorrow. But he did not know shalva. He did not know contentedness. In fact, the sages go well out of their way to use Jacob as a paradigm for the greatest truth that we may discover as we age in life. That even the tzaddik knows that their feet are planted in two universes at the same time. Nobody gets the opportunity of living solely in one universe and only in this universe, abandoning all other thoughts. What they mean by that is simply this. When Jacob dwelt in two universes, he understood that he had physical pleasure, he had physical achievement, he had conquered all of the things that most of us place on a pedestal to achieve in our life. He had come to them. It was nearly the end of his life, and all of his dreams were in his hands. He had many children, he had wealth, he had peace with his neighbors, he had peace with everything that he tried to set his hand to. But contentedness was not going to be his. There was still going to be an ongoing struggle. The struggle was for the future. Some people, of course, can easily let that go and say, not my concern. I've done my duty. I've laid the groundwork for the past, and I've brought myself and my family to this point in the present. The future is not my concern. It needs to be theirs. Not so with Father Jacob. His eyesight saw much further, and his heart desired so much more than was simply with him right now. All the disturbances that arise, Joseph being thrown into a pit, the terrible jealousy that tore the family apart, the descent to Egypt that resulted in more than 200 years of slavery for the Jewish nation. Jacob saw all these things and knew them, and it gave him heartache. Again, he had shalom, but not shalva. And maybe, truth be told, the things that we think are the most important in life, achieving wealth, having a big house, making sure that we've got a big IRA, a nice car, all of those things that are physical pleasures in our life that we say this is the goal of life, when we get them, we discover that they are not. that there's something grander, something higher, something infinitely bigger than any of these things. And that's at the moment that we realize we inhabit not one, but two universes. And so the man of Shalom tries to become the man of Shalva. The woman who has achieved the former stretches her arms out to achieve the latter. And it won't always come. I'm being kind. Perhaps it will never come. And maybe none of us are destined to achieve that end. However, there is still a contentedness knowing what our hands have wrought and knowing we can only do so much. Such is the lesson of Father Jacob.